So the first time I ever went backpacking, I was in college, and I took this backpacking whitewater rafting course. And there was probably about 30 of us who went, and what you do, we were doing a 3-day hike one direction, so it was a through hike. And so what you do is you leave a car at the end of the trail so that you can, when you get to the end of the backpacking trip, you can bring everybody back to the cars in the front. So my car was one of the cars at the end, and when we got back to the front to start the trip, I decided to leave my keys in the car at the beginning because I didn't want to lose them on the trail. Well, we get to the very end of the trail 3 days later, and I realized I don't have keys. Luckily, there was another car there, so we were all good. They were able to bring the drivers back. But today, we want to talk to you about backpacking so that you can think through some of these things before you go on your trip and you don't make the same mistakes. I'm Amy Hope with HTXoutdoors, and Kelly Howard with Bayou City Outdoors. She's out playing in Denver today, so you're stuck with just me. But we wanted to go through some backpacking tips, starting with how to load your backpack and how you're going to put it on. I'm going to go ahead and put it on first so then I can start digging in it and pull stuff out. So once your backpack is loaded, it's going to weigh, anywhere between 35 pounds or more when you have all your water, food supplies. It really just depends on how far you're going to be backpacking as to how heavy your pack will be, and also how much stuff you're willing to live without when you're on your backpacking trip. So it's going to be at least 35 pounds, I'd say. And so to make sure you don't hurt yourself when you're picking your pack up and down, there's a suggested method. You're going to grab the top handle of the backpack, put one leg forward and grab one of the handles, and then you're going to lift it up onto your leg. And then when it's on your leg, you're going to reach your arm in and pull it onto your back. And I'm still kind of leaning forward, and as I'm leaning forward, I'm going to connect my waist strap. And now I can stand up straight. So now the first strap that I want to tighten is around the waist. I want the pads for the backpack to be on my hips, and then you hold and pull the strap, hold this side and pull the strap so that it fits snugly on your hips. Then you want to adjust your shoulder straps. And so you come here and just pull them down. You don't want to over tighten them, but you want it because you want the weight really to be on your more in your hips, where you're carrying the weight in your hips. If you pull your shoulder straps too tight, then you pull the weight up onto your shoulders, which could hurt. You can end up getting sore and stuff. So you can see that's loose. It's leaning backwards, and when I pull the straps, it tightens up and it fits more snug to my back. And then you have your load straps at the top, and these you're just gonna kind of pull just a little bit to get your load more equal. And then as you're hiking, you might feel like you're starting to get uncomfortable. Like if you're starting to feel pain in one area, you can make small adjustments to these straps. Maybe you do take a little bit more of the weight on your shoulders for a small part of your trip, and then you loosen it back up and, put the weight back on your back later on. And I forgot the chest strap. This one you don't want too snug because you just want it to help so that you can move your arms.
Is it important? Do you have to get fitted for these things?
Yes. When you go to buy your backpack, you will get fitted, and they're going to fit you based on the length of your spine. So from the base of your neck down to your lower back. And I'll show you that in just a second. So when I want to take a break, when I stop hiking for a little bit, I want to take my backpack off the same way I put it on. So I'm going to lean forward a little bit, take one arm out, and then slide it over, watching your microphone and your hair, and just kind of rest it on my leg. And then I can lower it to the ground. And so that's going to help you just make sure you stay safe when you're picking up a heavy pack and taking it off. So just to show you kind of from here, from the base of your neck to your lower back is roughly what they're going to look for to measure your pack size for you. The other sizing dimension or sizing that you need to think about when you're getting a backpack is how many liters it is. This backpack is, I think this is it's either a 55, I think it's a 55 or a 65 liter. I can't remember. It's like 20 years old, so I kind of forget. But the longer the trip you're going to go on, then the bigger the pack that you potentially need. And again, that still goes back to how much stuff are you willing to carry versus willing to leave behind. Because when you're backpacking, it's all about the weight. You know, what can you carry physically and what are you willing to carry? And you're going to make different sacrifices on items that you bring with you depending on what type of hike you're doing. So if you're just going to do, like a 2-day or a weekend, 3-day backpacking trip, you might want different items than if you're going to do a week-long trip versus if you're going to do a month-long trip. So it's just that when you start thinking about backpacking, there's a lot of planning that goes along with your backpacking trip. So, were there any questions so far on sizing of the backpacks? Okay.
Big crowd.
Yeah. So. Okay. So now to talk. Oh, another thing about the backpack when you are looking for a backpack is I like to look for a backpack set where you can enter in through the front of the pack. So if I open this up, you can see there's a zipper here, so I can get to everything at the bottom of my pack. That's helpful because if you ended up packing, let's say your rain jacket at the bottom and it starts raining and then you need it, you don't have to pull everything out of your pack trying to get to that one thing that's at the bottom. And this pack is an example of a pack that there is no entry at the bottom, you know, so you would have to pull everything out and then to get to the bottom.
Amy, real quick about these backpacks. Do any of them have like a water source that you can add on, or is that like a good idea since you're carrying it all?
There's a couple different rules of thumb on that. So the bladder sources, they are more easier to puncture. And when I say bladder source, I have one in here. It's like the bladder that goes in your camelback is what she's talking about, your water reservoir. And they're easier to puncture, so it's kind of up to you. So this backpack, and actually a lot of the newer ones now, they come with little sleeves kind of in there to help try to protect your bladder and they also have holes for the hose to come out so that you can drink as you're walking. That's definitely part of the convenience of having this, is you can drink your water as you're going like you would on a regular hike. This pack is so old, it doesn't have fancy stuff like that. I'm sure I think most of them have it these days. So your other options are to bring water bottles. I typically bring, I'm weird about carrying water. Like some people will just carry exactly as much as they need, and then they'll filter water along the way, or just restock when they run out. I like to carry a lot more, but water is heavy, so I'm willing to carry that extra weight to make sure I have enough water. So I will carry 100 ounce, not liter, 100 ounce bladder, and then I usually carry 2 bottles as well. And I brought a couple different bottles. The Nalgene's, they're great because they're durable, but they're also heavy. This is a little bit lighter. This is it's more flexible, but it could still get punctured. I mean, it's a little bit more durable than some of the other plexi bottles that you can, or like a regular plastic bottle, but it's just a little bit lighter. So these are other options. And when you're packing your pack, you want to also keep it balanced. So I would try to have a full bottle on each side and alternate which one I'm drinking from if I'm bringing bottles, or just use them to kind of replenish my camelback if I need to. So Because so talking about how you pack your pack, when you're packing your pack, and mine's a little lopsided right now, I didn't cinch everything down very well, but you want to, when you're starting at the bottom, you start with your light, bulky items, like your sleeping bag and some of your clothes that you're going to wear at night. And then you want to keep your heavier items, like your food, along the spine, right above your backpack, right above your sleeping bag. And then you put some of your softer items in front of that. And then you want to put the things that you need to access on a more regular basis on the top. And then most packs have some kind of pocket on the top like this. And that's where I put all of my quick things that I might need really quickly. Like this bag has water purifiers, a headlamp, extra socks, a little emergency key cord. I think there's waterproof matches in there, like a needle and something, just one of those little emergency kits that you can put together. And then some snacks. I didn't put any snacks in here, but bug spray, my first aid kit. And then just snacks, so when you stop for a break, you can grab something easily without having to take everything apart. Let's see. The other thing that's good to use when you're backpacking is a stuff sack. So I didn't fill this up, but this is an example of a stuff sack, and basically it helps allow you to compress some of the air out. This has got my clothes and my slippers in it. So I can just compress this down to help me get more space.
How many days worth of clothes is that, Amy?
Well, this is probably too many. It depends on how long you're going for. I take that back. I typically like to backpack when it's colder outside, so I like to go when it's under 60 degrees at night. So I like to bring these down slippers, because after you've been hiking however many miles with a pack on your back, I want my feet comfortable. So these are my choice to bring. So everybody's going to make different sacrifices on weight. These are one of mine. And then I just have different weights of fleeces, and it really just depends on what time of the year you're going. Typically what I'll do is have the clothes I'm gonna hike in. I usually bring 2 sets of clothes, one that'll be on me, and then one dry pair. In case you get wet, then you can change everything out. And then for hiking, and then I usually have like an extra base layer items for at nighttime to stay warm. Any questions?
That's a lot of weight. How much does that pack weigh?
Well,
You got 10 pounds of water to start.
there's no water in this one, so this one's actually pretty light right now, although Andrea thought it was heavy. I'm guessing this one was 20 pounds when I first started, but when if I'm doing a 1 or 2 night trip, or 3 nights even, it'll be about 35 to 40 pounds.
If you have 80 ounces of water in those 2, that's like 10 pounds of water.
Yeah, exactly. It's heavy with all that water. It is heavy for sure. That's why, so there's a concept called caching. And so what that is, let's say you're going to hike for 30 miles and you're going to do 15 miles one day and then 15 miles the next day. What you could do is, if the trail allows for it, sometimes there's a parking lot in the middle, or certain trails have actual stations where you can leave a jug of water. You can leave water there. So that way when you start, you take as much water as you need for the first day, and then you get to the end, you get to the middle point, and you go to your caching station, and then you get the water that you need for the next day. Or if you're hiking or backpacking around fresh sources of water, then you would filter your water and refill. So for filtering options, now I made a mess, but so for filtering options, I mean, there's several different ways you can filter water. The 2 things I've got is this SteriPen. It's a UV light where you fill your water bottle and then you turn this on. The batteries probably don't work. Anyway, you turn it on and then you just stick it in the water for I think a minute or something like that, and it sterilizes the water. And then the other option is pills, and you can put these into, they're not open, but you can put these into the water and sterilize your water that way. There are tons and tons of filters out there on the market, so just read all the reviews, and I would actually try the filter before you go on your trip and just see what happens. So that's water filter. That's pretty much water. So the suggestion of water to drink on an average day is at least 2 liters. So when you're trying to figure out how much water you need for a day of backpacking, you're going to start with 2 liters and then add more based on how far you're going, how strenuous it is, and what the weather conditions are.
So I'm assuming water sources are from a natural source. So is that why there's such strict rules about waste?
Yeah, I mean, so leave no trace is a big thing out on the trails. So what Andrea is asking is about waste when you're backpacking. So where do you go to the bathroom? So what you want to do is, if you want to go at least 200 feet away from the trail and away from small bodies of water. And actually it depends on where you are as well. So these are general guidelines. You should always check with the park of where you're going to make sure what their rules are, because some parks you're not allowed to leave like your poop behind. You have to actually carry it out with you. And some you can bury it. If you're going to bury it, it's usually 6 to 8 inches deep, 200 feet off the trail. If you're near a large body of water that's flowing, like a very large river, then you can go to the number 1 in the water, and then still bury number 2. Say that again?
You have to carry a shovel.
You do have to carry a shovel. Yes, you carry a little shovel. They make all kinds of shovels, all different weights. So you can get a cheap plastic one that's going to be a little heavier, or you can get a titanium one, which is going to be lighter but more expensive. And that's really the thing with backpacking gear. The lighter that it is, usually the more expensive it is. So that's why it's good to have a rough idea of the type of backpacking you want to do before you really get started. Because that way you'll just know where you should spend your money, like what you should skip, and then where you want to splurge on something. So let's see. Okay, so for food, when you're on the trail, you want to bring all your food. You want to bring easy stuff to eat and things that are lightweight that don't have a lot of waste also. So if you think about fruit, apples are good because they will last a long time, but they have a core that you have to then carry out with you. You can't leave that on the trail because you can't. If you leave food out on the trails, it's animals are supposed to be eating some of that stuff, so we don't want them to get used to people and having food on the trails. It doesn't decompose quite as quickly as we might think, especially if everybody's doing it and it's a highly used trail. And then it could just be invasive. Apples have seeds, and who knows if you're going to grow an apple tree or not. So anyway, you would have to take that core out with you. Oranges, you'd have to take the peels out with you. So you do want to keep that in mind when you're packing your food. They make meals that are ready to eat, MREs. You can buy those at the store. You just boil water and you pour it in the bag. I don't have an example of that today, but I kind of made my own. This is just a Ziploc bag. It's a freezer level because it's a little bit thicker. And I just put couscous in here with broccoli and carrots and some spices like salt, pepper, garlic. And all I need to do is boil water, pour it in here, seal the bag up, wait 5 minutes, and then it's cooked. And I can eat it. I like my vegetables crunchy, so they are going to be crunchy because maybe if you let it sit longer than 5 minutes, they might steam a little bit more. But so you can make all different kinds of your own bags. You can put pretty much anything in here. I think the carrots and the broccoli hold up pretty well. I'm not going to wait till day 7 to eat this. I'm going to eat it day 1 and then maybe have, something prepackaged chicken or something for day 7. But these are really easy to make, and there's tons of recipes online that you can get as well. Okay, and so then for tents, this is a quarter dome one from REI, and it's a 1-person tent. It's really small. It basically fits you and your backpack, and I think if you're under like 6 foot, maybe 6'1", I forget exactly, but it weighs just over 2 pounds, so it's a good option. I always backpack with my Hennessy hammock, which isn't folded up very well right now, but it goes a little smaller. But this is also just over 2 pounds, and it's completely enclosed. It's got a bug fly and a rain fly, and I like it. I'll decide between the two of these based on weather. If it's going to rain, I'll go with the tent instead of the hammock. Or if I'm going someplace like the Grand Canyon where I don't think I'll maybe get enough trees to hang it, then I'll maybe go with the tent. But you can also use this as a tarp and just lay it down, so if you know you're not going to get rain. Sometimes I still bring it and chance the trees because I can just lay it on the ground and sleep on top of it. All right, any questions? The mat? Yes. So I've got a sleeping bag and also the mat. My ground pad I just connect to the front of the backpack. There's also 2 different schools of thought on that. If you have a lot of stuff hanging off the outside of your backpack, it's more likely to catch on things. So some people don't like to hang stuff off the backpack. They like to keep it all inside. But if you wanted to do that, you would need a bigger liter bag to get everything in there, potentially. So there's 2 different schools on thought. That's usually the only thing I have on the outside, that and a water bottle. Any other questions?
What are those?
Oh, cooking. To boil my water for the bag that I just showed you, I have a jet boil. And they make all different kinds of little stoves like this. They make ones that are much lighter than this one as well, but you just buy these little gas propane tanks, and then you just, you set it on there, you put your water in here. Some people will only boil water in this and then pour it into other things. I cook in here. I will actually make my oatmeal. I'll make anything that you would make on the stovetop, I've made in here, like rice-a-roni type stuff. I mean, it does get a little bit more, it does get harder to clean. So that's why doing something like this is a little bit better if you're going on a longer backpacking trip, because it's less that you have to worry about. But I will cook in here, and there's a little frying pan that comes with it. So I've like sauteed meat and stuff before. So it depends. It depends on what you're cooking. I don't know, honestly, because I feel like I'm not sure. I'm always, what I try to do is mark them. I put the date on it that it's new, and then each time I use it, I put a little mark on it, because I never remember which one's which, and I don't, and you don't want to, usually if you're going on a trip, you're going to buy a new one to start out with, and then use the less ones, the ones that you've already used for when you're just hanging it closer to home, so if you run, you can bring more and not worry about it.
How much is that weigh?
What's that?
The stove and stuff, how much is that weigh?
I don't know. It's not that heavy. Here, you can hold it. Okay, I'm going to continue. I'm going to stay here and continue to answer questions. And if you guys on Facebook Live have any more questions, feel free to leave them below, and we will get back to everybody. We'll just get back to everybody. Thanks for tuning in.